Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on this Thursday night. And we begin with news just coming in tonight, what we have just heard from FBI Director Christopher Wray, with just days now until Joe Biden is sworn in as our next president. The FBI also issuing a new bulletin warning authorities in the nation's capital and in the capital cities of all 50 states to prepare for a possible showdown against violent extremists attempting to take on law enforcement. They warn of loss of life, of property damage, of disruption of government that could overwhelm law enforcement and emergency response. Authorities warning of the very real potential of new attacks following the deadly riots at the Capitol. Tonight, the intelligence they're now picking up. And the new images tonight, up to 21,000 National Guard members are being deployed to Washington. They will take up positions around the White House, the Capitol building, the Supreme Court, more troops than in Iraq and Afghanistan combined. Authorities closing the Capitol complex and possibly closing the entire National Mall on Inauguration Day. And there's news tonight about the nationwide manhunt for rioters. Federal prosecutors charging the suspect seen beating an officer with a pole holding the American flag. A retired firefighter now under arrest tonight, accused of throwing a fire extinguisher at police. The rioters seen walking the halls of the Capitol carrying a Confederate flag, now arrested. And new questions tonight about why there were tours of the Capitol the day before the riots, when lawmakers say they understood that those tours had been halted last spring because of the pandemic. Many lawmakers calling those tours the day before the attack suspicious. Here's our Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas tonight, leading us off.
Tonight, a new intelligence assessment raising the specter of continued insurrection next week. The new FBI bulletin urges authorities in D.C. and all 50 state capitals to prepare for a fight or face the prospect that violent offenders could, quote, overwhelm local, state, and federal law enforcement. 6 days until the inauguration, and with an expected 21,000 National Guard available, there are now more troops in Washington, D.C. than U.S. military in Afghanistan and Iraq combined. Razor wire, blocked streets, a city fortifying itself. Officials shutting down the entire Capitol complex and floating the possibility of keeping everyone off the National Mall.
The National Mall normally would be filled with hundreds of thousands of people who come to watch the inauguration. Shutting it down would be unprecedented, but it shows you just how concerned officials are.
All this because the FBI believes that last week's assault emboldened right-wing radicals to return and pursue more violence.
Anybody who plots or attempts violence in the coming week should count on a visit.
Sources telling ABC News different groups from around the country appear to be coordinating. Overnight, FBI Director Wray briefing chiefs in major cities, telling them to be on the lookout for potential lone wolf actors that could blend in with more peaceful protesters.
When you have people come down to peacefully protest and get a large crowd and some bad actors infiltrate that can turn a peaceful crowd into what we've seen in the past.
At the same time, they're pursuing rioters by the dozen. Suspects like Kevin Seafried. Authorities say he's seen here carrying the Confederate flag. Arrested in Delaware this morning along with his son. Robert Sanford, allegedly the man seen here hitting several police in the head with a fire extinguisher. He's a retired firefighter from Pennsylvania, turned in by a longtime friend who recognized him in the FBI photos. Christine Priola, a former occupational therapist for Cleveland schools, allegedly seen here in the Senate chamber. And Jenny Cudd, in a since-deleted Facebook video posted after the riot. Authorities say she admitted to breaking into the Capitol.
We did break down the Nancy Pelosi's office door.
And tonight, more than 30 members of Congress are calling for an investigation, calling it suspicious that an extremely high number of outside groups in the complex on January 5th, the day before the riots, which is unusual given that public tours of the Capitol ended in March 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic, and claiming that some of the visitors appear to be associated with the rally that preceded the riot.
So let's get right back to Pierre Thomas back with us tonight. And Pierre, you reported last night here that President-elect Joe Biden and his team had been briefed on the threats. Now, less than a week from the inauguration, we know all this is fluid, obviously very concerning. Where do the plans stand tonight?
David, they're really trying to hold the inauguration outside as is tradition. But, David, the threat situation is so intense right now. So intense, Biden doesn't plan to take his beloved Amtrak train to the inauguration. And the FBI has identified 200 suspects tied to that mob assault, just an incredible number, and that number could rise, David.